for you tonight.
Hello, we've been expecting you.
I'd like to
This is not a
introduce...
test. Your government and corporate overlords have implemented new measures for your own health and safety. We are just following orders.
Everything is going to be fine.
Welcome, everyone, to another If by Whiskey. Jason, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. Good evening. Very happy to see everybody here, including Frank. It may or may not
Frank,
be
we
an
can't
AI-generated
I've got my
voice.
mask on.
We've got AI Frank in the house, everybody. Just so you know, it's AI's voice, Frank, but we
Yeah.
can't get video today.
This is for real.
So welcome, Frank. Frank Holmes of HIVE Digital. This is such an exciting conversation. Last year, I had the honor of meeting him at the first Freedom Fest I went to. We crossed paths a couple times this time. Weren't able to get another meeting together, but with Jason now, we're gonna have double the brain power or a quarter of the brain power. I forget how we do this. It either
A 300% increase
or
in brain power.
So yeah. So welcome, Frank. Welcome. We're gonna get you set up in 1 second, but Jason, we must
Yes.
start, sir, with our honorary simulation set.
It's time for the moment that sends the lizard people running back to the sewers. It scrambles the CIA spy network and it alters our base reality. Yes, folks, it's our very own Whiskey Rebellion, known only as the Simulation Sip.
All you need is a cup, a mug, a goblet, a horn, a flask, or an ancient alien thermos filled with any beverage Big Pharma hasn't recalled yet. Could be coffee, tea, ivermectin smoothies, even whiskey. Dealer's choice.
So join us now as we raise our glasses together, confusing the AI overlords, forestalling the next CDC directive, and maybe, just maybe, waking up one more NPC. Here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers, sir. Cheers.
Mark, it looks delicious. I love Bobcat gin.
Excellent.
Ooh, great
This
choice.
is my Glenfiddich Scotch here, so
And it is so nice. So
Yes.
that's what it looks like. Nice.
Oh, thanks,
right.
Frank, for joining us. Welcome to our little glitch in the matrix here. Happy to have you. Why don't you give us just a quick introduction? Who are you? Why should people care?
On,
All the good stuff.
on a good day or a bad day. I am Frank Holmes, originally from Toronto, Canada. I've lived in Texas for half my life, so I'm a full-fledged Texcan. Y'all come back, eh? And,
Beautiful.
I'm a dual citizen, American, Canadian, and I was in the they call the sell side investment research analyst that went to banking, and I covered the gold stocks. And Toronto is the mining capital of the world for finance. In 1990, I moved to Texas and I purchased control of U.S. global investors. And with that, I was known for gold. I wrote books on gold. That journey took me down to discover about Bitcoin. And then Bitcoin took me down the path to learn about data centers. And data centers then took me back to learn about AI. And so now I'm doing both, in addition to having these unique ETFs that are quant-based called JETs, which exploded under all the Reddit followers in the year 2020. And I have Go Gold, Go EU, and I have SEA, which covers 80% of all global products and commodities are all carried by 50,000 cargo ships. So I have a product listed on the New York Stock Exchange that it captures the real-time arteries of the world. And since Trump called April the 2nd, not April Fool's Day, but Liberation Day, you won't believe that the seas dropped a bit and then went up and they're above their 50-day, and tariffs have not hurt sea cargo. In fact, a lot of their revenue's gone up 30%. So it's sort of contrarian. So I have these sort of unique smart beta products, but the darling, which is occupying so much of my time, is clearly Hive, and Hive's data centers led me back to my latest ETF called War, and it's AI for rebuilding America's machinery. And we're seeing now President Trump commit billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to the AI boom and military spending. The same thing with Europe. And it's outperformed the S&P 500 this year. It's data centers. It is NVIDIA's of the world, semiconductors. It is air manufacturing, seas, destroyers, submarines. So it has the whole composition, but every quarter these things recalibrate. So they're quant driven. So they're only looking for growth in revenue momentum along with cash flow, these types of products. But HIVE, that's where I just finished a call before coming on here with people in Paraguay.
That's amazing. So we've got Zach on. Jason, I'll let you in a second, but Zach's already got some great questions I know you're going to get to. So
yeah, we'll hang on to it.
So...
We'll hang on. Zach will get there. Don't worry. Yeah. So in Paraguay, you've got the hydroelectric thing going, right? One of the biggest dams. I don't know if it's the biggest, but one of them in the world.
It's the biggest in the Western Hemisphere. It is 5 miles in length, 7 kilometers. And it's where the famous, just down from the dam, the movie The Mission with Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons in 1986, it was about the Paraguayan people. And something else that I found fascinating is that Paraguayans love America. They love America. It's totally different than Colombia or Venezuela. And why is that? Because in 1876, President Hayes protected the country, and where there was genocide against all boys and men, where the Brazilians and Argentines and Uruguayans trying to wipe out and take all of their fertile land. And it was President Hayes. So November the 12th is Hayes Day. One of the biggest states in the country is called Hayes, and they love America. And they have and so for that, it was very important. They have the surplus electricity. We turn around and start building out substations and building out their infrastructure. And when they were selling electricity to Argentina, that went from no pay to slow pay with Malay coming in, but it's still, they couldn't run their country properly. And so the more the Bitcoin mining, they get paid every month.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. So it's funny because I don't think of Hayes as an influential or impactful president in any way.
Yeah, like if you think like
that
there was
name your top 20 presidents, I don't think Hayes even makes the list. This is an amazing thing that how one can get such loyalty back when giving oneself. I guess
it really is. The legacy comes hundreds of years later, as it feels like, and but they're so proud and loyal towards America, and it made it very easy for HIVE going down there as being listed on NASDAQ, and now the head office is here in San Antonio to embrace. So I was told the next time I go down, I have to wear my cowboy
hat. Nice. So HIVE Digital Technologies, you're the executive chairman. You guys just hit a huge milestone, doing the 13 exahash per second. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What does that mean for people that are not in the know about crypto or Bitcoin?
So I think when it comes to looking at HIVE was the first crypto mining company to go public. In 2017, I was trying to launch a Bitcoin ETF. And because of anti-money laundering and KYC, it just wasn't going to happen. It only happened a year ago. And so I learned about crypto mining. Well, then you're mining the virgin coin, and every exahash means you're producing X number of coins. And so I said, well, look, we'll be having virgin coins. So we don't have a KYC or AML problem. So we launched it, and all the gold bugs piled in. They all want to use HIVE as a proxy. That were following me. Every week I have what's called Investor Alert Frank Talk, and it goes out to about 100,000 people in 80 countries. And a lot were goal orientated, and HIVE became that proxy. So when we talk about this magic word of an exahash, it means it's a unit of how much production can you produce based on the global difficulty. And so what people have to realize with Bitcoin mining, every 10 minutes is a jump ball. And there are only a certain amount of Bitcoins you can touch. And you have to have the fastest machines, and you have to be online all the time. And with that, when we say we have 13 exahash, that means we're producing 7 Bitcoin a day. So that's that's what's really important in that unit. And as we climb to
So 7 Bitcoin a day. So basically right now we're looking about 750,000 or 700,000 or something a day in a US dollar.
Dollars,
Yeah.
800, 900.
800,000.
Yeah.
800,000.
And if you throw in our HPC AI revenue, we're doing about 900,000 a day now. So
Wow.
it's the fastest scaler this year.
And this is a year after this last halving that we had,
Yes, it
correct?
is.
Like and halving is where you get about half the value for the same mining
correct.
power. Is that correct?
And we still eked out last year $25 million in operating income. We did about 5 million in revenue per employee. We'll run here at this rate about 10 million. We have a tight nucleus of 25 key people. We function in 9 time zones in 5 languages. And Anthony Power on a regular basis ranks us as the #1 most efficient miners. And I believe it's our culture of every morning and every afternoon we huddle to make sure our machines are plugged in, helping each other out to make sure that we're very efficient. But HIVE went through this lull, this huge explosion in growth, and then we went through a lull. And the real difficult part took place because Putin invaded Ukraine. And what you don't realize is that all of a sudden, all the countries in the Northern Hemisphere started doing like a lockdown on their hydroelectricity, on the fear. And even New Zealand, which is far removed from Ukraine, electricity prices went up. They went up all through the US, they went up everywhere as people became paranoid about the value of their electricity.
Right. Well, there's a downstream effect, right? I mean, we look at, there's a couple of essentials, energy, water, there would be ones where grain, for example, those are things where.
So true. So true. And along came Paraguay, and a year ago, I reached out and talked to the president, flew down there to the country. So it's like you have to fly to Buenos Aires or Sao Paulo, Brazil, and met with them, studied at the University of Columbia in New York. I worked for the World Bank. He's 47 years old, a rugby player, and he's just a first class about building the country. And so that we hit it off. We said, okay, we can get 100 megawatts. So we immediately had 100 megawatts. And then Bitfarms wanted to get out of the country because they made an acquisition in America and they wanted to just focus. And they went through other turmoil. They got a new CEO. So they wanted to focus on the US. And so we were able to purchase their assets at a very, very attractive basis. And that allowed us to go from 100 megawatts to 300 megawatts of energy. And that took us from basically 4 megawatts all the way up to 25. We'll be by next week 14 megawatt. We'll be 14 exahash, and that means we're using almost 180 megawatts of electricity as it ramps up to 300.
Now, using all this electricity, that's been a big complaint against Bitcoin from its detractors, right? That it's using so much electricity that it's inefficient, or it creates I don't know, climate difficulties, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But this is a big complaint. So what do you? I mean, obviously, using hydroelectric, you're making some effort to be more clean, more environmentally conscious, I would assume. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, Jason says a great observation on it. There's so much FUD on the energy consumption, and it's been basically cleansed. That was well funded, even by XRP. Gave $5 million to Greenpeace to switch from proof of work to proof of stake for Bitcoin, and they had in DC the subway system had all this anti-Bitcoin rhetoric. And so we've lived through all that sort of journey. The things that we've done, we were the first, as I said earlier, to go and first to go public. Then we started balancing the grid. So we're the first to do that. And that was important in Sweden. And then Riot started doing it in Texas. And what does that mean? Well, with software, you're able to go from 100 megawatts down to 5 megawatts in 20 seconds. And so in Sweden, when everyone turns on their toasters in the winter and they're taking hot showers, we can tool down, and the electricity is never a drag. Otherwise, they waste all this surplus electricity. So we actually help the community. We have expanded and funded the hockey arena. We have 12 hockey teams for kids because everyone in Boden, Sweden, wants to be a hockey star, and they have 2 Stanley Cup champions that retired there. That's where they're from. So there's a real cultural event, so that HIVE is very much embedded into that community. In Montreal, we took the electricity from a 40,000 square foot building and heated it with a liquid that went across to a 200,000 square foot building where they make whirlpools with 175 manufacturing workers. And we saved them $300,000 a year by recycling that molecule. And so I think there's so much FUD, Jason, we have to fight with and sort of re-educate. But we still see that there's a choke 2.0 in Sweden with the tax people. In Canada, it's still that if you have data centers, we won't tax you extra, but if you're in Bitcoin mining, then we're trying to go after you. It will eventually go away with the Genius Act. And someone here asked the question, my thoughts on the Genius Act. I think it's genius. I think it sort of basically paves the way that we'll see adoption taking place, that you even see Jerome Powell talking about the significance of big gold being Bitcoin. We're seeing this, we're going through this incredible transformation. And I think the other part that Bitcoin ecosystem has done a phenomenal job is that besides saying energy of Bitcoin mining is FUD, CPI is a FUD number. You know, the CPI number is always understated. It's always a basket of goods that are not relevant to you and I. I know for my JETS ETF, the flight tickets are up 100 to 200% since COVID. But they're saying inflation is only 4%. Well, that's BS. Food, I see Amazon and lots of small items jump the prices 30 to 100% recently. So you really have to look at purchasing power. And purchasing power says inflation is running at 12 to 15%. So I think that we not only do we wrestle with the FUD on organized, rigged CPI numbers that are always so late, that this education process will go on the Bitcoin and also gold. So my vintage, I'm 70 years old, and my vintage is gold. And they like the tangibility of gold. Younger, not baby boomers, but millennials and generations X, Y, and Z, they're much into, they call it, it's intangible. And that's what's really important to recognize, that they grew up in the gaming world, and they learn about gaming, that they could earn digital money from that game. And so there you go. I love it. And so I recommend people consider both, Mark, both gold and silver. And then you have to own some Bitcoin. And I saw today that Ray Dalio came out and said 15% in gold and Bitcoin. And I totally agree with that. If you're looking for preservation of capital, gold is really important for preservation. But if you're looking for preservation with torque, with growth, then Bitcoin is the animal. It really is. Because it's capped at 21 million. So the scarcity element is much more important, as a Genius Act ushers in global adoption.
Can I ask a weird question about that? Because as a Gen Xer myself and a borderline boomer, I'm a precious metals guy. And Jason, the energy question's great, but then all you have to do is counter and go, how much does it cost the U.S. Mint to print or to mint all their stuff? And look at all the energy they use and how like at least Frank's making it green, right? But my question is like fractional. Frank, it's $110,000 for a Bitcoin, man. I'm priced out. I can't buy a Bitcoin. But like, how do we get our mindset off of like a thing, like a one thing, like a coin or a thing? Because we can fractionalize this, right?
Yes, and I say this quite often on interviews like this, is that so many people are coming in to buy the Bitcoin ETFs, and they don't know that one Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshis. And so when I try to explain it, that it's the best penny stock in the world, because a Satoshi is 0.0006 cents. And I know from my experience that if you have special numbered Satoshis with the growth of ordinal art, then all of a sudden I was getting $10 for that Satoshi. So if I can get $10 for special numbers, well, easy 1 penny, Satoshi's going to 1 penny, that makes Bitcoin $1 million. So you can go and buy HODL, VanEck Bitcoin ETF, and you can buy it through Robinhood and fractions. So $1,000 gives you close to 1 million Satoshis. You can do it every month. And so over time, you're going to accumulate a core position, and Bitcoin goes to 1 million. Your Satoshis are going to be a penny.
It rides along with it.
And you got a 10 bagger by just spending, if you think about it, like if I tell people like $100 a month is a Starbucks coffee a day. That's what it is. So you know what? I'm going to turn around and drop down $1,000 at Robinhood, and every month I'm going to buy $100 worth of HODL. It's commission free there. I buy it and I just accumulate it. And I think that will eventually catch on as people become more informed and educated.
I feel educated right now because I'm ready for the links, Frank. Sign me up, my friend. Here's my Bitcoin story, Frank. There was a single Bitcoin ATM machine, a single Bitcoin ATM machine in Arizona. I drove by every day to work, and it was $300 for a Bitcoin. And I sat there. I go, ones and zeros. What am I doing buying? Well, I'm not going to spend $300 for a Bitcoin. Let me spend $3,600 on a brand new flat screen TV instead. And that's what I did, Frank, because I'm an idiot. So like, I need to learn how to do your thing.
I think when you do what you're doing, you capture it. We all miss certain trades, but you're in it, and it's going to trade much higher for many reasons. You see, in my global money management business, I look at China. I always say this in my prospectus. It says, we believe that government policies are a precursor to change. So we monitor and track the monetary and fiscal policies of basically the G20 countries. And there will always be imbalances between the monetary and fiscal policies. The bigger the imbalance, the bigger the value of gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And so it's a rudder to protect your ballast in a sailboat, so you don't tip over. And so it's so important to have those alternative asset classes. So what do we notice? It's so easy to follow China and India. These two countries are 40% of the world's population. If tomorrow they say they're just going to be eating rice prices go up 100-fold. I mean, it's just, you've got 40% of the world's population. And what we've seen this century is that they have a cultural affinity for gold. Unlike America has been predominantly the fear trade, 60% of gold demand is love. So in these countries, they give it for weddings, they give it for birthdays, they give it for all these seasons they have that they give gold. And it's highly correlated to GDP per capita. So in this century, China's GDP per capita has gone up 30 times. India's gone up. So now they have a bigger, stronger component of the demand. So anytime gold sells off, in comes that love trade for 40% of the world's population. We throw in Southeast Asia with the Middle East. We're now pushing 60% of the world's population, all have this natural affinity. And we also look at M2 and M1 money supply. So it's really simple. What's China and India doing? They're 40% of the world. What's the US doing? It's the number one biggest GDP in the world. Now we've basically captured the world, 3 countries. It's so important to find out how are they printing money. So if we see the money printing faster than GDP growth, then this is a big wind at the sail for Bitcoin, for gold, and for silver, and especially that fear trade. And I think more and more people are recognizing 36, 37 trillion. People are immune to it. Well, it's 40 trillion. They're immune from that, but slowly the purchasing power is declining, and it's declining between 12 and 15% is the real number. And that's not going away. So you have to diversify. As Ray Dalio says, and I said earlier, 15% should be in gold and Bitcoin, and that will protect your purchasing power.
That's
amazing. Can we talk more long-term strategy with Bitcoin? Because I love it. I think it's a great idea, great concept. But most people I know, and you've mentioned a couple of times as well, that you're hodling. You're holding on for dear life. You're hanging on to that Bitcoin. I mean, eventually, are we going to be able to use this as a currency? Because right now the fees are just so high that it's pretty prohibitive.
No, I think it's going to be a store of wealth, and I think part of the Genius Act is very important for stable coins, for that the idea and the significance of stable coins, and for your listeners, basically in my business it's a money market fund. But if they said they were a money market fund buying U.S. government securities and paying interest, they would then be a security. They'd be a tax. So especially Tether. Tether has proven and validated the way Bitcoin has validated digital money around the world with now 21,000 nodes. There's 194 central banks, but there's 21,000 nodes validating and supporting the global ecosystem. So now we have Tether comes along and they have 300 million wallets. That's the whole population of America. And you scratch your head and you say, outside of America, everybody wants the US dollar. And in Argentina in 2002, they came in and they confiscated your US dollar bank account. And before Milei came in, it was only this year that all of a sudden they started allowing you to be able to trade, had foreign currency movement, but you couldn't get any money. So when I went to Argentina, I would come with a wad of US dollars. The official exchange rate 18 months ago was 300 pesos to a dollar. And on the street, it was 900. So then you start scratching your head. I met with the ambassador, the American ambassador in Argentina. He said there's 25 billion US dollars in pillows and mattresses all through Argentina. And that's what kept the economy, the city of Buenos Aires so beautiful. It was basically US dollars. In Zimbabwe, they don't, lack of trust for the banks, they have safety deposit box, basically companies that with military barricade around them, where people store their safety deposit box. They won't have a safety deposit at a bank because the bank will come in and confiscate your gold and silver, and they'll confiscate if you have US dollars. So Tether grows to $140 billion, 300 million customers on average, say $4,000, because they want American dollars outside of their government and outside of the banking system. And I think that now the Genius Act is going to usher in, America will have, and the banks will have bigger growth in their stable coins, which is going to be used as a weapon against China, who is mobilizing with Russia and the BRICS nations to de-dollarize the US. So we're seeing the success of stable coins by Tether demonstrate how much people want US dollars outside of America. And I think it's going to grow.
So Frank, I have a quick question about that. I'm seeing a movement in Africa similar to the Libyan movement with Gaddafi, where Africa is looking to try to get off it on its own standard of some sort. Are you concerned with BRICS and this other African movement? I think it actually speaks to the stability of the state of cryptocoin versus even the US dollar. But can you speak to a little bit of that?
Well,
that?
It's a good question. I'll give you some history. It's called M-Pesa, M-PESA. It came out about 5 years before Bitcoin came out, 4 years before. And it was an invention by the telecom companies to be able to bank the unbanked. Poor Africans in villages where there's one cell phone. And the success of M-Pesa in Kenya today, it's 60% of their economy trades in M-Pesa. It is directly more than 10% of the GDP, directly because of M-Pesa, digital money. It's in the local sterling currency they have in Kenya. But it goes to show that digital wealth and digital movement of money is going to grow. And it's happened. I was with a driver in London, in England, and he needs to send money back to his family in Ghana, and he uses M-Pesa. He just takes his phone and he can send them money digital. So I think that the sort of wake up what's happening in Africa is one thing because of M-Pesa, that they've embraced digital money with their cell phones faster than America has. And you're seeing now Bitcoin is a lot of the more savvy and sophisticated have money in Bitcoin outside of the realm of the banks and government to protect. That is one thing that's going to go. Digital wealth and digital money will grow in Africa, but there's a distrust from the governments because of what they've tried to do in Nigeria and force everyone only use a stable coin. And then they turn around and they cause nothing but turmoil because America will have still cash and have a stable coin. So really that stable coin is financial weaponry against China. That's the way I look at it. Now, when we look at Africa, the risk is this, is that Xi Jinping is a Machiavellian genius of what he's done. And he created one road, one belt. And at first I thought it was a great idea until all of a sudden I realized it's a Trojan horse. And what he's now lent money to 130 of the 194 countries, $2 trillion. And
Debt is slavery, Frank. Debt is slavery. It always is. That's the new slavery.
And he brings in Chinese workers. They don't hire the locals, but they do build a seaport and a railway, and they have purchased more than 100 seaports. So
and then think about that. Not only do they get the employment, they get the technical know-how, all the expertise that go along with it.
Yeah.
It's generational wealth
and control the commodities because you need these strategic minerals. And so when I thought that President Trump didn't do the best job explaining when he first was inaugurated over Greenland and Panama, because I know a fair amount of that from my CETF. And so what happened in Panama, the richest man in Hong Kong's a capitalist. He's the one that actually bought the canal. But what the sneaky People's Republic of China did is they bought from corrupt government an island at the mouth in the Caribbean, and that island for $900 million, was like the $900 million or something of that nature, and was to build like a military port there. That was the high risk. In Greenland, and I know Greenland from funding junior explorers, and they've been going to Greenland from Canada for a long time. And so I understood about the topography and what the issues were. Well, China all of a sudden builds 5 icebreakers and says the Arctic is theirs. And Russia sends down to the bottom of the North Pole and stabs a flag and says it's theirs. And natural gas discovery between Alaska and Canada in the Brunei Bay. So all of a sudden they're trying to scramble. And why does China need icebreakers? Why they want to move all just goods, they say, to Europe. Well, it's not true because in 2017, they tried to buy a World War II military base and seaport base in southern Greenland. And the State Department through Denmark had it shut down. And then they went to try to start up strategic minerals mining in southern Greenland, and that was shut down. And that really didn't become the normal dialogue. So we are in a battle. I mean, you can see this tariff war on April the 2nd was against all nations. And then all of a sudden, everyone gets 90 days. And now we're coming to closure with Europe at 15%, not the 30. But China, there's no closure yet. So that's the real battle. It was, if they just announced the battle against China, then people would focus on too much military and all this concern. I think that it's been brilliantly done, how you hit everyone and then you start pulling back and cutting grace deals with other nations, but really the focus is on China.
Yeah, it does make sense that China would be this is the beauty of China in their way, is they can look 30 years down the road and plan. We have elections every 4 years, and it goes left to right to left to right. The pendulum swings through the middle. It's never in the middle. We always find ourselves in the extremes. or going toward them in some way.
And I see one of these questions. They can see all your stablecoin transactions. That's true. You're right. But one of the things that's why it's so bullish for Bitcoin is my experience, 35 years in America in mutual funds. When I first came, there was no ETFs. And the strategy was build your money market funds. And back when I first arrived, they were like 8% coupons and 6%. So they're quite high, short-term treasuries. So I quickly created this government securities fund and went to $1 billion. Well, why is that valuable? Because then they went from that cash account into my gold funds. Then they went into my other funds. So it became money market funds were really key to the huge growth of mutual funds. Then we saw Schwab come in and create their own and start pressuring you that you wouldn't use our money market fund, theirs, to try to capture those assets. So think strategically, stable coins around the world are going to become this huge money market fund capacity, not paying a yield because they don't need a yield. They just want the stable US dollar. They're going to turn around and put into Bitcoin. That's what I think is a big backdrop for the money, as I've seen in mutual funds, money market funds to equity funds. We're going to see stable coins to Bitcoin.
Yeah. And just to give you a little background of our audience for in general terms, Frank, we met at Freedom Fest. We have autistic libertarians in the crowd that just we just want our privacy is all we want. So that's where that question certainly stems.
Not from what I understand, though. From what I understand, the Genius Act is really like putting some regulation on the stable coins so that it is actually pegged to a real asset. So it's pegged to something liquid like a dollar or some security, that's something that's easily transferable into cash. And the libertarian argument, perhaps the pro column for a stable coin, is that it provides liquidity for you to trade your Bitcoin back and forth, or your other cryptocurrencies, right? So you can use it as a quick change. You don't have to change all the way into fiat money. You can change it to a stable coin that's pegged to the US dollar, trade back and forth, and provide you some more ease of transactions that way. So there's at least that.
You know what happened to us in HIVE when we first went to Paraguay a year ago? To send money down, the money center banks in New York told the banks in Paraguay you can't have any relationship with anyone in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So we couldn't wire money. So we did it on stable coins. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. It was all done with stable coins. And now the banks there, the fastest growing bank is called Buono, and it's got a third of the country's citizens, all digital. And we have an account now, and it's all changing. So I think that this Genius Act just will change, and there's no doubt there's always this ultra concern of predatory governments. But I think our biggest worry really has to be with China, what they've been doing, and they've been sending their best brains to American and Canadian and British schools, and then they go back. And
just to be clear, we don't talk about the predators in our country. We sweep those under the rug, Frank.
Yeah,
literally.
So there's it's all stages, and so we have to put things in context. That what are the evils? It's China, Russia. They are still pro-communist. They're like a monarch. They're a dictatorship. The idea that one person is a dictator for life, and he'll pass it on to his children. And so that's something that we all have to fight for, that freedom and that liberty of having a real democracy.
For sure. So I am so curious about the hydroelectric part of this. Are you interested in talking about any bit about the actual dam itself or anything, Frank?
Yeah, the dam is an amazing piece of infrastructure built 50 years ago. It's been paid off. It's a partnership with Brazil. It's 10 gigawatts of electricity. 5 goes to Paraguay, 5 goes to Brazil. What Paraguay doesn't use, Brazil gets to buy for a penny a kilowatt, so it's not expensive at all. And the more that they can use, up to their 5 gigawatts, the more they can create industry and jobs in Paraguay. Paraguay, which your listeners would like, have basically a flat 10% tax. So you look at the GDP per capita and you say, why is it so much lower than Uruguay and everywhere else? Well, it's a flat 10%. And when you're there, you don't see the graffiti. When you go to Lima and you land and you're coming into the airport, you can see graffiti over all the buildings. And the same thing, and the more left a country is, I've noticed this, the more there's lack of respect for private property. So therefore, I can paint and spray and destroy any private property. I didn't see, and I've not seen this in Paraguay. I've not seen now along the border in Brazil, they have a problem with trade, and they say there's a narco trade in the northern part of Paraguay between Bolivia and going over to Brazil, and then this goes over to Europe. Is what they say, the contraband trade that takes place. But so far for us, we've been extra careful with security. We feel very safe. You can walk on the streets with your cell phone talking. You can't do that now in some places in London, England. You can't do this in downtown Bogota. You don't walk talking on your cell phone, because someone will come on a bike and hit you, and the other one will grab your phone, and all of a sudden, why? That phone's worth $1,000.
That was notorious at the Brazil Olympics, wasn't it? Didn't Ryan Lochte? A lot of people had their phones stolen. During that Olympic. Yeah. Yeah, I heard some pretty horror stories. So
this dam is an incredible feat. It is the biggest infrastructure in the Western Hemisphere, biggest dam. They're looking to build some more, not as big, but dams along the river system. And the country is a little oasis where it is, and the soil is very fertile. They're the biggest trader for meats and food for Taiwan. And you'll see you won't see Chinese flags, you'll see little Taiwanese flags. And they have palm trees and eucalyptus trees. It's so beautiful to see rows and rows of eucalyptus trees where the oil is used for fragrances and other things that's sent over to Taiwan and exported. A lot of the beef, most of the Taiwan get beef from this place, and the soil is rich red soil. So it's a fertile country, and where our original property started, called Valenzuela, it's the pineapple capital of the country, where they grow pineapples to export. And what we're really happy there is that we noticed this is all these in Latin America. The money that you pay your taxes and you pay your import tax, it goes to the central government, and how it comes back to all these little regions is just not straightforward like we have, say, in America, where the state power is so significant versus the federal power, and you don't have that in these areas. So I've noticed this from my gold mining experience in Peru with Yanacocha gold mine, where people were complaining in Yanacocha that this big rich gold mining company called Newmont, and they weren't seeing any of the benefits, and so they started protesting on the streets because the money never came back from Lima. And so we're there, and we find out that they bought all these air conditioners, the central government, and they deposited them, and they have wiring for fans, but it's 90 to 100 degrees. But the air conditioners were never hooked up. They never did the wiring. So we said, okay, because I've given a lot of money for education. That's my big philanthropy, is for education of kids and universities. That my university scholarship is you have to play a varsity sport, maintain a B average, and I give you a full ride.
That's impressive.
That's amazing. So I'm looking for those kids that have that hunger and need, and they make a sacrifice to get both.
Yeah, because it's teamwork too, right? The sport that they would play in would also be part of the teamwork portion that you need to succeed, because you can't do it all yourself.
So true. And so in the school system, so we built out the air conditioning for 5 schools, put all the electrical education. So then the mayor of Valenzuela immediately calls up and she says, well, no, can you help wire the main street? And we said, we don't do that. And she said, but the women and children are not safe at night. So we wired the street. So Valenzuela now has electricity. And so she calls it, put up posts everywhere thanking HIVE and a big poster, etc. So we're very much involved in those communities. What we do want to be able to see, what you can do in America and Louisiana, is you take heat from your Bitcoin mining facility and you create like a huge hair dryer and you dry the rice. So now what they do in Louisiana is predominantly propane or natural gas that they use. Where here we can recycle that electricity to do drying.
That's beautiful. And that's beautiful about the repurposing. It's such a green way to look at things. I'm just going to pull up something really quickly, if I may, Frank. Basically, William, welcome. Frank did tell us about HIVE earlier, so I don't want him to repeat himself, but we'll share a little bit more about it. But thank you. So basically, they recycle the heat to use that to dry the rice.
Right.
And then does that get recycled in ductwork for keeping heating in the winter time or anything?
Well,
or
there you don't have to worry about winter in Paraguay.
Okay.
In Sweden,
I would is it along the equator? Is it pretty close to the equator?
Yeah, it's pretty hot. It's
okay.
Winter is
tempered all the time,
and summer is like Texas. And so when we look at Sweden, where we are, is called Boden. Boden is up at close to where Finland is, and it's 100 miles south of the Arctic Circle. So we worked on a small pilot project to create a big greenhouse where we would take the heat from our data center and heat the water, which then would use for
irrigation and everything, hydroponics and
hydroponic. Thank you. I lost the word there.
It's okay. All those words, it's all Latin words, Frank. They all get mixed up.
So we would do that, and we know the pilot project works. And now all we have to do is get an offtake by the grocery stores, because if we started producing all these tomatoes, and we went and saw a huge scale of green peppers in Netherlands, where they're using 1 megawatt of Bitcoin mining to heat the water to do 2 football fields. So we know it can be done. And so we're always thinking that way. And because we're green only, Intel approached us 4 years ago, and we created the first ASIC chip with Intel. And then Intel went to all their problems. They didn't keep up with NVIDIA, and they started the project. But we end up getting thousands and thousands of ASIC chips for next to nothing, but it was a joint partnership of creating that. So when we opened up in Paraguay, we said, look, we've got 8,000 extra chips here. Let's send them down to Paraguay and get them plugged in right away. And we did. And that's why our exahash exploded. So for the listeners who have come in late, HIVE is going through a big transformative year, and we'll be up to 3% of the global network of Bitcoin mining. And that should be doing close to 1.4 million a day. So that's our growth profile. And I like to tell people the cake is in the oven and it smells great. And by Thanksgiving with the turkey, there'll be icing on this cake, and we'll be 3% of the global Bitcoin network.
3%?
3%.
That's amazing.
That's one of every 33, basically. That is cool.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So in that way, you're saying HIVE will be that. So basically, one of every 33 coins mined will be HIVEs?
It'll be HIVE, green and clean coins.
Wow.
And,
wow. So, so with that, do you do any regenerative farming with the green initiative, or any other what part of the education part can you share with us, considering it's such a passion of yours as well? Love to hear about that.
It's everything we try to do is where can we recycle the electricity, and the interesting part was NVIDIA is very hands-off about Bitcoin, and I think now with the Genius Act, companies like that will move over and embracing it, and so with that, they still gave us, or we bought them $70 million. We had to upgrade. At one time, we had 130,000 AMD special purpose chips, and we were 6% of the Ethereum network. And so when they went to proof of stake from proof of work, we pivoted over to AI, but we were able to go. We said we have to buy chips that are going to be able to do two things. One is mine the altcoins and do AI. So we're mining Ethereum. We got all our money back, and then we started pivoting over. And now we have 10,000 accounts around the world that can rent by the hour our H100 chips. So if you go to the AWs, if you go to Azure with Microsoft, etc., you need to get locked up in long-term contracts. With us, you can log in and you pay up front for how many hours you want it and how many chips you want it. So it's worked out that we are doing 22 million in revenue with 2 employees.
So it's like an on-demand. Yours is scalable upward as needed.
I am. And so we said, let's start buying our own, rebuilding our own data center. So we bought one in Toronto last month. And so that will give us about 7.5 megawatts of high performance computing. That means that will do 70 million in revenue, that one little 40,000 square foot building. And then we're building out the similar size in Bowdoin. We got the electricity, you buy the land, and then you start to refurbish. So for your listeners, it's really important to know there's a big difference between tier 1 and tier 3 data centers. Bitcoin mining is tier 1, and it costs about $1 million per megawatt of electricity to build the building and put chips inside of it, ASIC chips, so that you can mine Bitcoin. When you're going into HPC, high performance computing with NVIDIA chips, you're now going to be spending $10 million per megawatt, because you have to build all this redundancy and air conditioning. And for simplicity, when I get an ASIC chip delivered, it takes 6 hours to unwrap it and plug it in for cash flow. When NVIDIA's chips come, it's 6 weeks. Why is that? Because you're building a brain that it's so sensitive. And when you're thinking GPU chips, you got to think of driving a Porsche. When you have an ASIC chip, it's a Bronco, it's a Jeep. It's a complete different rugged animal as a chip. But the GPUs, now we start going to Blackwells are called. Well, that's like a Bugatti, $1 million for a Bugatti. Those chips are $45,000 a chip.
I watched a podcast about Blackwells today. My head's still spinning about it. It was something about tokenizing like good deeds and how you're going to work around UBI. I'm going to stand it with you, Jason, because we're something to watch. We need to talk about it. But Frank, this is amazing. This is amazing.
That's why they're saying tokens. Do you remember when the internet first opened and you just didn't realize till you got the bill how long you were on the internet, and you said, $100? What are you, crazy? And then no, it's $500. I wasn't on that. I'm running a business that you couldn't believe. All of a sudden, you had a $30,000 bill. It was like going to emerging markets and you're calling on the cell phone and they're charging you $5 a minute. You didn't realize what you're being charged. So the whole idea is that the unit of charge will be token. So you'll be buying tokens to try to manage the cost effectiveness of these. But the big part is called Stargate in Abilene. And in Stargate in West Texas, it's $500 billion spend. It's the biggest infrastructure in America, and maybe this year the biggest in the world. And so we are seeing that every time someone goes to open chat, they're using electricity and they're using NVIDIA chips. Every question is tapping into energy and tapping into those chips. And you think in 2 years, open chat's gone from basically 0 to $1 billion a month, 12 billion a year is that run rate. I think at the end of May it was at 10 billion run rate, and it's now pushing up to go to 12 billion. So I think that you're in that big demand for what AI can do. And I was at a meeting today, and it was about, it will tell you when your machinery is going to break down. The AI is going to, if your car breaks down, it's going to tell you in advance that this machinery for these amount of miles this will go first. You have to bring it in rather than every 6 months you bring your car in. No, it's going to tell you exactly when that machinery in your car. So they're using it for water, for cleaning water in cities. They're using it for hydroelectricity. That the substations will start to explode if you don't do this upgrade. And so now we can order 6 months before. They're using predictive analytics. That's the big revolution that's going to happen in industrial. I just spent a week at MIT with a group of CEOs called AI Bootcamp. And it blew me away that we started a business. They showed how to do it in 2 hours. It just really was mind-boggling to me when I saw what you can do. Have you seen the site called Riplet?
I have not. No.
LIT. Incredible. Riplet allows you to create your own studio, your own anything. So what you have special different types of AI platforms that will do music for you. One will do a web design for you. One will give you a British accent, American accent, female, male, which you want to have to answer questions. The other one will research for you. And you can basically write a business plan. And McKinsey Consultants wants
you mean ChatGPT writes your business plan and then you just paste it into this thing to read it for you.
So, but these other ones give you much more granularity of what your idea is.
Right.
And then you give it all to Riplet and you push the button and 12 minutes later, you get a whole business. Like it blew me away what we created in 2 hours. We created a candle making company that you could sell candles and make extra money and they have a fragrance to them. And we poured it in a glass, like it looked like whiskey being poured. Or it looks so beautiful, like you want to taste it, but it could supplement your income. It told us exactly who the buyers would be, who to do. It was incredible. And so then we had one of the answering was a British accent. The other was American female. It was so much fun that you can create that. And that's where it's going to go. So you can test your idea and not spend a fortune saying, that doesn't work. So that was fun.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, Jason and I are very interested in the podcasting space, but I've actually listened to like an actual 30-minute AI generated podcast that was 2 non-humans having a conversation about a topic that sounded just as, organic as you and I having a conversation.
Well, that's incredible. Yeah, they had podcasts too. There's a site that will create the podcast, the AI, and give you the accents you want to have. You want a Texas drawl, they'll give you that. You want a Bostonian. It's really funny, but it's brilliant. And I love the music. We created a rap tune. And it's like I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind, sipping gin. And so we created this, and it created all the words for you. I got my mind on my candles. They smell so good. Da, 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 da. And it had the beat and the cadence. And then we did it in country and Western music. And we changed the tune, like all my exes are in Texas. Just have fun with it. And so it's remarkable. But what they said, the professor said, it's to augment your professional. If you have to not be frightened by it, you have to think, how can I augment my skill set? And that was a very different paradigm shift of looking at AI.
I love that. I love that perspective. However, as you just shared, I like to write jingles, Frank, and it just took my job. Because I don't know if I can write a jingle as good as that from all the collection of the things that it would know, right? All the books and all the, Jim Morrison songs and all the Pink Floyd songs and all the, just everything, right? For example.
But I think what it says about the human element is it augments you because it's your prompt. It's how creative is your prompt. And the other great line, all your listeners will get a chuckle. It said, don't argue with your spouse, argue with open chat. You want to have a debate because that's how it earns your grok. I love, both of them. I like going between them all. Claude and Perplexity is the fastest. I find that they always give you 5 questions. And so they try to instill critical thinking, that you didn't think about this, you didn't think about that. And I think that that's so useful, especially to high school and college kids, that they don't get lazy. The professors kept saying, don't use open chat like it's Google. It's not Google. You have to know how to prompt it properly. And the average prompt should be 250 characters minimum. So sometimes I will write a prompt. It's like I'm writing a 250 word essay.
That's beautiful. What I love about this conversation, first of all, once again, we're here with Frank Holmes. Thank you again, Frank, for joining us. We're just an hour in. This is such a great conversation. I'm enjoying this. But you're an optimist, Frank. And I love the way you're speaking about these things. All of your things that you're sharing in this optimistic way, I'm just seeing the terror of it. And I love the diversity of ideas that we can bring together and find this common, like the things that we do find commonality, that we can step forward together. So it is less uncomfortable for myself, for example, right? As someone who is not familiar.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you. But you have to be an optimist. And, you know, at MIT, they did this research, and I laugh because it reminded me of my mother. And it was, my mother used to say, you need 3 pats in the back for every kick in the pants. Otherwise, you grow up dysfunctional. And have you done your homework? Pat, pat. And so this research came out that people need encouragement 5 to 1. And if not, then they become too defensive. They become too sensitive, or they lose their ability to be resilient. And so I thought that was really sort of interesting that they did all these focus groups. But you must give criticisms 20% of the time to get yourself to improve on. And the operative word is discipline. But I'm blessed. You know, I'm 70 years old, Mark, and I can still run 7 miles. For my 60th birthday, my wife told me that she's pregnant. So I'm now have a 10-year-old. And I have to stay young because she's going to be going to university when I'm 80. And so I love the story I heard the other day about Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro calls up this producer for a kids program and wants to talk. And he says, yeah, I want to talk to the producers. Well, who are you? I'm Robert De Niro. And they laughed and they hung up the phone on him. And he calls back and he says, no, I'm really serious. Like, I want to talk to the producer. And the producer, he finally talks to him and he says, well, why are you interested in my program? He said, you know, my son loves it. And he's 2 years old. He's 2 years old. This guy's now 82. And he said, yeah. And I've also gone back to work. You've gone back to work. He's in many programs now. Do you know why? Because he said, I have to keep my brain alert. I have to memorize script. Yeah. I have to go swim in a pool because I'm the ex-president in a Netflix sequel, and I have to be active. And so I have to be active with my child. And so, you know how hard it is at 82 to memorize script and go out on the stage and go out on a set. So we all have to stay optimistic and active like that.
I love that. Yeah, it's funny because they always talk about like, this is a job for the young. No, it's a job that keeps you young. It keeps you sharp. Look at Ozzy Osbourne. His last concert, 2 weeks later. You know what I mean? It's like these people like literally have their last thing and they shut it down. And you just have to keep moving. You just keep moving, right? So here's an interesting one. Jason, you want to take that? And I'm sure you have a couple awesome questions too.
Yeah, I see it $300 a month. And I think it would have to be for at that level for their H200 that they're asking for. I think that the competition is like $200 a month. And you just have to see how much you're using it. But
that's great. But do we really trust PhDs?
Yeah, well, that means piled high and deep.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. You know, it's. But I think, but you got to think about what it can do for you if you're a writer, and you want to turn things around faster, or you want to question things. For your listeners, one of the biggest things I found is that you plant the seed, and say, I can you tell me about Steve Jobs and his famous Stanford speech? And he said, I can't predict the future, but I can look back, and if you can connect the dots, I make better decisions for the future. So now you've asked, and Open Chat will say, yes, this is what Steve Jobs said, and this is why it's profound. And then you say, can you go and look at the connection that the Pope, the Vice President Vance visited the Pope, and he only became a Roman Catholic 10 years ago, and he visited the Pope the weekend before he passes away, and then there was rumors that the Pope would be American, but he wasn't charismatic enough, and then all of a sudden Trump shows dressed as the pontiff, and so looking back, what is the probability that there's an intersection between social media and influencing outcomes? And you won't believe, because I asked her to look through the lens of Steve Jobs and where the intersections are, they quite often use what's called Bayes' theorem, Bays theorem. And that's a statistical approach that all the big
like Bayesian, right? Like Bayesian statistics.
Correct. And what it does is it gives you most recent information and compares it to old information. And it gives you a percentage that your idea is probably right. You've got your gut feeling. And so what is that? So then you can turn around and say, what Machiavelli wrote about the prince, and the prince believed in the book, what were the 10 take-home things from the prince? So it gives you the 10 things and say, now I'd like to look at Xi Jinping. Is he Machiavellian the way he's dealing with Trump, or is Trump more Machiavellian? So you set it up when you use these various chats to look through a lens that you find really interesting, to look for intersections, and then they do their own mathematical probability of it. And it was really interesting because they came back and said, yes, there's a high probability that Trump influenced the outcome so that the Pope is American. And so then you have to go and find out that he's an Augustine and that Pope Francis was a Jesuit. Well, Jesuits are very different than Augustines, because Jesuits start macro and believe that open borders is a good idea, whereas Augustine believe in the community, that you need a strong community. And so the view of the family and the community is very different, even though it's both Roman Catholic Church. So that's what Open Chat, things like that.
It's like open border libertarians. Oh my gosh, who'd have thunk?
I remember talking to a Catholic archbishop, and I said, do you lock the church up at night? Well, naturally. Then don't you think you should lock up the border? Don't you think we ought to protect? And it was like, well, that's different. It's not different. It's very similar.
Yeah, AI is amazing. We've been playing with some tools to make clips, and it'll go through our whole episode and cut things out and put it together to make a very interesting clip. And it's crazy. Saves me hours of work.
For the opportunity of sharing my experiences with you, and HIVE, I think is just a phenomenal. It's going through this transformative re-rating, and if you look at the valuations on data centers now, they trade at 20 times EBITDA. We're trading at 1 times EBITDA for November. So I think what will happen is our numbers come out in June, and then September, then all the institutions start coming in for what's the best and most undiscovered. They're always looking for it. But we publish every month what our production is, so you can see it. It's pretty transparent. It's on our growth. We're riding that big wave. Well, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Well, thank
to
you
be
so
honest,
much,
I bought
man.
some HIVE stock this morning because I looked at it. I was like, oh, it's quite undervalued. So not investment advice, anybody. I'm not a professional investor, but I'm putting my money where my mouth is here.
Thank you, Jason, for being a speculator.
I'm on board now. Jason's going to talk me into it.
Yeah.
Well, Frank,
Thanks
is there
for joining
anything you'd like to share with us before we do call it a day with you, sir?
No, I just think stay optimistic. We live in the greatest country in the world. We may be the biggest critics, but we still live in the greatest country in the world. And every day just wake up to that. We woke up today, and and we can smell, we can see, and we can hear, and we can feel. We're blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, because we live in the greatest country, we're able to criticize the things that we just want to improve. We just
Right.
want to tweak for the better because we want it better. We don't want it to burn. We want to save what we have. We want to protect what we have. So
Totally.
yeah, bro. Well, thank you again, Frank. Yeah, is there anything else about Hive you want to share before
they can go to usfunds.com and sign up for Frank Talk to see about my global travels and what I look at. And I talk about gold every week, and I talk about airlines, I talk about crypto. Everything's always done like a football game. It's a SWOT analysis. 3 strengths, 3 weaknesses for last week, and 3 opportunities or threats for next week, because there's new economic data coming out every week. So I try to summarize that with my investment team.
That's great. And hopefully we'll see you at Freedom Fest next year. I'm going to try to twist Jason's arm. It might be a little more challenging.
I got stuck in Denver, flying to Denver, the rain, whatever. So I missed the flight. I couldn't make it, but definitely next year. I think it's going to be back in Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back in Vegas. So I think it's July 8th, I think, something like that. So
stay strong, y'all.
Thank you so much, Frank. Have
a
great day. I'm going to send you on your way. And thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. Dude, that was an awesome conversation.
Crazy, man. I can't believe the amount of stuff that guy does. It's so wild to go to a whole other country, not just one country, but multiple countries, and build out this infrastructure and build the data centers is crazy. But then also I'm curious, and I wanted to ask him, but ran out of time there. Like, what does that do for the little guy? Because you got all these big companies out there mining, controlling 3% of the Bitcoin out in the world. That kind of hurts, I guess. I don't know. Does it matter? What do you think?
I think that people who make the world move the way someone like Frank makes the world move, perceives the world in net better versus net worse. I think he's very utilitarian in approach, which, look, that's what works. Like, utilitarian would be the most ideal way to live if you want to talk about, whatever value, like propagation of species or just whatever, right? Continuation would be utilitarian. You got the 5-track problem, you steered away from the 5, you kill the 1. That's what you do. Like, there's no morals there. You just 5 is greater than 1, that's safe or whatever. So I think I'm not wired that way. And I wish I were, because I think intellectually I can do the things, right? Like, I can be a maker, but my perception of how I view the people that move the world, I don't want to be that.
Yeah,
because I think it comes with sacrifices that I'm not willing to make. And I think people underestimate, like, what beds do you think Elon had to crawl into to get his?
Well, actually, St. Clair, we know that one.
Bro, yeah. We know that one. Yeah. But like all that stuff he did with China, right? How much he built their electric infrastructure to get his going. And now it's like in this weird way, but it made him. What got him to be SpaceX? Like, people like Frank are like amazing minds, and I think they just see it and like, those people will be taken care of somehow. And I don't know if that's always true. But I'm not socialist, right? We're not here to be like, everybody's got to get it, right? So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, because you asked the question. I'd love to hear.
I don't know, man. It seems like it could be a problem, but then if you look at the analogy to gold mining, right? Like, not everyone out there is going out panning for gold. Not everybody's out there digging in a mine underground looking for gold, right? So, and gold still circulates throughout the economy, or money, what used to be gold. So I think it could just be a good capitalist service, right? He's doing it efficiently. He's doing it much more efficiently than anyone could do at their house. If I just plug in some GPUs here at home, I'm paying way more for electricity. It's got to come from halfway across the state, and it loses, efficiency as it travels that distance. So it's wasting a lot of energy for me to do it. So yeah, maybe it's good, and maybe it actually keeps the keeps the value relatively stable.
Yeah, I mean, look, he has vision. It's beautiful the way he sees the world too. It's like we don't the little guy doesn't exist without the big stuff going forward, I guess, either, right? Like we don't move forward, we don't progress unless we have.
Yeah.
So like it was interesting. Like I saw the Warren stuff that you had, and I'm like, we're not even going to talk about that because I don't think he looks at that stuff. I think he just looks at like he's like the science dude goes, what can we do? He's like,
he's definitely in a different mindset, right?
Right,
Or like,
right.
How's the government screwing us? That's mine anyway. And
right, because we're looking at like the
I'm just gonna
Genius
go
Act,
get
and
this. Yeah.
I don't think you and I were going to look at the Genius Act in a positive light, and we are going to ask him about it, right?
No. Yeah, but he's just like, hey, I'm gonna go. I see this awesome opportunity. I'm gonna go get it. The Genius Act is helping me secure my gains.
The opportunities, right, versus the problem, and we it's just a different way of perceiving it. And I wish I had more of that. And maybe if I tried something and it stuck or had that first success, it then like would steamroll into more. But you know, who knows, right? But obviously it's not just luck that gets you where you're going. That guy, listen to how many hands how many like irons in the fire he has. It's crazy.
Can't believe it, man.
So
dude must be rich out of his mind too.
So now we can shit on Genius Act because now Frank's gone. We see the world differently. So everyone, we'll do a quick reset. Everyone, look, we've got 50 people on the X. Come on over to Rumble. We got what, about 40 minutes maybe before we call it a day, before we have our little Irish goodbye. Everyone jump on Rumble. I know William's on YouTube over here. So you want to go through some of the comments, maybe Jason, and see if there's anything we missed throughout as we go. And what kind of things did you want to talk about, my friend?
Yeah, I don't remember if we shared this, but William said, I was scared and terrified of AI, but now I see the potential for an amazing future for humanity and for personal freedom. I'm really on board with this. I think AI, there could be problems. Definitely, I understand why people are worried about like the rate of change, you know, putting people out of work and stuff. And he mentioned that he wants to come talk to us about it. So that'd be a great topic. But get on AI, start using it, start playing around with it, get it to do something for you. Because if you're the one that's able to use it and get it to do something useful, you are going to be valuable by association. So you have to get on this. I think everybody has to.
Here's a thought on it too is Gen X, we used our hands, guys. We physically did stuff, and then we offloaded most of that work, right? When you watch these AI commercials, you know how they talk about building things, and oldie like me just doesn't visualize building the way millennials, Z, the alpha, whatever, they visualize building, because it's like virtual, it's like idea making. It's like, that's not building in our head. You know what I mean? Like, we're like, but you're not making anything, but you are. Like, we just don't transition the idea as a physical thing somehow. Like the old days, because it was all manufacturer based, right?
You got a
different mentality.
Get your brain in the simulation, man. It's all fake.
Yeah.
It's all
we got to break it. Anyway. I got to take the red pill again. I got to take a double shot.
Yeah. No, you're right, though. I mean, yeah, that's like, it's hard to put that together because it's not in 3D space, right? It's not something you can physically touch and hold, but it's there, it's real, right. And it's doing a function, right? It's performing some action.
Obviously, if you have a need that it serves, look at these niches that everybody comes up with. Like, it's amazing. It really is amazing. So
I also wanted to ask him about Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash or any other cryptos because, reading the hijacking Bitcoin, Roger Ver stuff definitely opened my eyes to some things that I'm not sure if he's a Bitcoin maxi. He does he mentioned Ethereum. He said he wanted to, or he was into that before they switched to proof of stake. I don't know if he's still doing any other cryptos, but yeah.
And William actually had a good one about Ethereum and what you'd use for like stable coin. It would be Bitcoin. Oh, here it is. That's the one, I think, right?
Bitcoin's digital gold, no longer a currency. cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Digibyte, Monero. Yeah.
And
That's
I'm
kind of where
not
I'm at.
wish-
Like, but
Oh.
can it just be the one thing? Why does that, like, Bitcoin was supposed to be a currency to begin with? That was in the white paper.
Right. Remember, 12. I remember talking to Valerie Durham. 12 Bitcoin for a Dr. Pepper, like 10 years ago. Like it's like it was used. And who is it? Joel, William, not William, the politician. Free had Are You Smart, a politician on? Joel's lived Bitcoin life for what, 9-10 years. He was on with Aaron Day and with Zach, with our boy Zach, who's a crypto king. So, and William too, obviously. So everyone. Anyway,
Yeah.
So big week, man. What else been going on?
I'm getting ready for becoming a dad. A real
What?
dad.
What's going on, man? Do we have news? Is this breaking news on this
Breaking news. I think I mentioned it casually before, but yeah, I got a baby girl on the way. Very excited. December.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Everyone, I wish I could do the thing where you can make the balloons happen like Free can do. He does something where he does a peace sign on. It's the weirdest thing. Only he can do it. Oh, there we go. Now they're pouring in.
Thanks, William. Thank you.
Congratulations on
I'm
a
setting
little
up
one.
setting up her Bitcoin account already.
And you got Hive Digital already bought for her. So
Yeah.
So tell me about that experience. So you jumped on this morning. Like I'm just some schlub who never done this before. You know about Hive.
I was just looking at it.
Frank.
I see how much they're producing every day. What did he say? Like 7 Bitcoin.
800,000 a day. Yeah, 7 Bitcoins a day.
$800,000. Value keeps going up, and their stock is priced at like $2 a share, somewhere in the $2 range. So like, yeah,
Weird.
I'll pick a little bit up.
There you go. $100.
I didn't look at I probably should have looked more into it, but I was like, yeah, I'll buy a little bit. I didn't go crazy, but
I lost my shirt on cannabis, so
Yeah.
I'm not worried about all. Dude, I used to play poker. Okay,
but they're doing Bitcoin. They're getting fresh coins. They're doing AI. They've got these data centers. They've got the energy. They've got the proximity to almost free energy. So it's like, okay,
what can go wrong?
How could it go bad?
Exactly.
Again, not investment advice. Anybody?
Yeah. Also, he's right about gold though and silver. I would love to get more of it, but the price keeps going up because the dollar keeps getting devalued. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like I wanted to ask him so many questions about the negative stuff, but he was so positive. I didn't want to ruin the mojo. I just wanted to bathe in his great ideas. So like I totally didn't want to like, oh, but that's what this part's for.
Good instinct. No, I'm glad we didn't. It was a good conversation. Good to hear from it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we got some Elizabeth Warrens, man. Set this up. Let's go through these since we got them. You went through so much work.
He brought up the Genius Act. I pulled a couple of clips of Elizabeth Warren talking on Bloomberg. She was talking about what's going on with this Genius Act and crypto in general. She's been the one that's really leading the charge against crypto. She really does not want it, or at least she definitely wants a CBDC. She has said that explicitly. She wants it, which would be horrible, much worse than these stable coins, as I think William noted. But yeah, she's talking about what just happened with the Genius Act. I think she is pro-regulation, of course, but we'll see what she says. It's not enough for her. So I think that's a good lead in.
Let's just do it because I've got thoughts.
Senator, I'd like to switch gears here as we have this conversation over in the other chamber. There is a vote still open in the House to try to pass a procedural hurdle to move forward with a trio of pieces of crypto legislation, all part of Crypto Week, one being the Genius Act, the Stablecoin Bill, of course, the Clarity Act, which is a market structure bill, and some anti-CBDC legislation. While the House struggles to find a way forward, you would like to see none of these bills passed, correct? If the Clarity Act comes to the U.S. Senate, you would not be in support.
Look, I want to see us do strong crypto regulation. But what I don't want to do is see the United States government just sign off on very weak regulation that has been written by the industry. The problem with the stablecoin
gosh,
bill and
we
the
wouldn't want
clarity
that.
bill in particular is that they don't do anything about the Donald Trump corruption that is occurring right out in plain view. They also don't put enough safeguards in place for consumer protection to make sure that terrorists and human traffickers and drug traffickers can't use the system, and guardrails to make sure that crypto isn't used to blow up our entire economy.
Man, the terrorists, they're gonna get us. Yeah. Everyone probably knows this, everyone watching anyway, but the currency that terrorists most like to use, do you have any guesses, Mark?
Wait, say that again.
Do you have any guesses which currency terrorists are most like to use?
The U.S. dollar.
The US dollar. That is correct. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, they use fiat currency. They use cash because they cannot have a paper trail on this. So,
because it's made out of cloth and you can wash it better.
One argument down the drain against Elizabeth Warren. What was the first thing she said?
Regulations, crypto regulations in general.
She doesn't want weak regulations that are written by the industry.
Yes, she wants strong regulations written by the industry to keep other people from getting in once they pay her. That's what she wants. That's her advertisement. She's going, I don't want weak but written by the industry. I want the industry to pay me to pass stronger regulations for them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We want to be able to pick the winners. That's why.
Have you heard that Mark Andreessen stuff?
No.
Oh, dude. I'll share it with you because Eric Weinstein talks about it. But basically, Andreessen said about that. They're going to keep AI in a bottle. There's going to be a handpicked winners and losers. They're picking them. Well, you ain't got a shot.
This is what our government does. So when she says, oh, the industry is writing the regulation, that's what always happens with everything.
Every time. East Palestine. Think about the train again. The regulations that kept the train, other train companies or whatever from running is not what fucking derailed that train. It was a shitty system for something they didn't write a regulation for. Silly, isn't it? But it's for your safety. Oh, it's for your safety. These regulations, they're here to protect you.
Regulate me harder.
Regulators, mount up. That should be the name. We should do a spoof on that or something. That maybe we can get AI to create a video.
Yeah. So anyway, all her arguments are bullshit. She's probably happy there's some regulation, and we could probably get into the details of the Genius Act, because I don't know all of them, but I know it does provide at least some like security for people that use stable coins, people that are putting there's $250 billion or something right now in stable coins. So it's a big deal. It's a lot of money.
Well, I get that, but once again, this is caveat emptor, man. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe we shouldn't have protected the stocks once they crashed, and maybe that was our lesson to maybe not do it that way. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe let the market have corrected itself to change their tactic to value differently or something, right? Like that, instead of getting in the fucking way and just making the drip longer and slower. We're just dying slower instead of actually living.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because if you zoom out, way out to the big picture, her comments are like, well, if we let people have free money, it's going to blow up the economy. It's like, well, why would that be? If you had an honest, sound money, why would that blow up the economy? Oh, because it's completely hollow. It's a bubble. It's full of shit. Nothing is honest in our
smoke
economy.
And mirrors, right?
Yeah. So that's why. But
so you want to set up this second clip, sir?
Yeah, this is just continuing right after. She's going to talk more about the crypto regulation.
All right, here we go.
So I'm very worried about that, but I want to add one more twist, and that is the clarity bill has all those problems, but it also has a provision in it that would let any company listed on the New York Stock Exchange opt out of SEC regulation by just digitizing themselves, put themselves on the blockchain, and all of a sudden it turns out that Amazon or Meta or General Motors is no longer governed by the SEC. You do realize that literally would blow up the value of the New York Stock Exchange. That whole stock exchange has been a goose that has laid a lot of golden eggs for people in New York City, for people around the country and around the world.
For people in Washington, D.C.
This would basically just take a baseball bat to it by saying any company that doesn't want to have its books audited and make sure that it's following certain consumer protections and so on.
You can't even pass an audit.
Somewhere else and be traded on the blockchain. There is nobody in Congress who should support that.
It's more of the same, right? It's exactly what we're just saying. It's going to blow up the economy because it's all bullshit to begin with. And you are going to lose control over it, Elizabeth Warren. That is why. That's why you're saying this. That's why you're worried about it. It's because once people have a money that's not controlled by the Federal Reserve and by the United States government, all bets are off. You can't pull in your millions. You can't extract the wealth of people for your own personal gain. That's what's going on here.
It's so silly, man. I'm like, I get how we could be indoctrinated to think regulations are to protect us, but like just the second you like scratch at the surface of it, you're like, a ladder has a sticker on it that says is slippery and like, or can fall down in slippery conditions because some fucking farmer broke his leg because he had it in cow manure and it slipped. Are you fucking like, is that necessary to put that label on the ladder? Is that really necessary? Like just there, that's stupid shit. Freedom Fest was once again, such a great experience. Adam Carolla, I think I shared this thing, but basically Adam Carolla talks about it and he goes, I'm on the beach. Back in the day, you used to go to the beach. You used to put out your blanket. You used to have a picnic. You used to throw the football around. You used to jump in the water. You used to this or that. Then came the sign. And the first thing on the sign, no stabbing hobos on the beach. And you're like, well,
there's a story behind every sign.
Yeah, like, okay, no stabbing hobos on the beach. It's kind of already a thing. Do you need a sign for it? Right? So then the next week, no smoking on the beach. Then the next year, no blankets on the beach, no football on the beach, no frisbee on the beach. And every year they add something to the sign, but they never take something off. Never. That is government. That is the perfect analogy of government. And it was such a brilliant way for Adam Carolla to describe it that way.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
that's really good. Really good.
But that's all it is. Like the first one is for your safety. Oh yeah, we want to protect the kids. Okay. Well, who's next? Like this immigration stuff is unbelievable. Like what? These are the people you think because they're the low-hanging fruit, so you can make your numbers look good, your number go up. Like, does it sound like the grandma who's been watching? Like, does it just sound logical? It doesn't even sound. It's not even rational. Let alone like we could talk legalese all you want, but like it just is stupid. And I want bad guys out, but I want them more because they're bad than because they're here. Like, yeah. That's more why I want them out, right? Like,
yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, if we just kind of peel back a layer and look at regulations in general, right? Elizabeth Warren, she doesn't know anything about crypto, right? Maybe she's learned a little bit being this advocate against it, but she's a grandma. She reminds me of my Native American grandma. She's
no.
Yeah, she's
exactly.
I don't know, man. So she doesn't know about this, right? So she's going to go. Who's she going to go talk to get information to understand? Hey, what's going on with this? Well, she's going to go talk to people in the industry. Again, this is every regulation in the government. These people don't know shit about it.
Actually, she's going to call someone in the Fed first and
Yeah.
they'll direct her on who runs the show, won't they?
Sure.
Like whether
Either
it's Jerome Powell or whether it's what's her face. You know what I mean?
either they pull it out of their ass, or they're going to go talk to somebody who wants a certain thing for themselves. Like, everybody has selfish desires. You can't escape that. So if you're going in to regulate something, nobody's going to be perfect. And when you do regulate something, you are taking away an opportunity. That is the definition of a regulation. So you're taking away something that somebody in the market would have paid for or would have wanted. So, so just to, put the cap on it, regulations cause inefficiencies by definition, at
100%.
best, and at worst, they are put in place to specifically benefit one party.
And not just the regulation affecting the company being regulated, someone has to administer the regulation. Someone has to, actually enforce the regulation. So like it becomes this inefficient bubble that just gets bigger and bigger.
And we got to
And
pay for it. So we got to steal your money to pay for it.
Exactly. And Justin, we got you here in a second, my friend.
Hey,
Let's
welcome,
play
Justin.
let's play this last Liz Warren clip, and then we'll bring you in, my friend. We'll bring you on. What do we got here?
A little gear shift here. She's talking about the Fed chair because Trump has been talking about potentially trying to fire Jerome Powell. So this is what she had to say about it.
All right.
But I have no hesitation about saying that the Fed chair is independent. I will try to persuade him about what I think he should be focusing on interest rates or on oversight of the giant banks. But that's all I can do, or anyone else. Try to persuade. Donald Trump's efforts to try to fire him, first of all, would be illegal, but more importantly, will tank the markets. We got a taste of that back in March when Trump said that that's what he wanted to do. And the rest of the world effectively said through the bond market, whoa, I'm not so sure we can count on the stability and independence of the U.S. financial system. And given that every nominee that we've seen that Donald Trump has run through here in the Senate for confirmation has started out with effectively a loyalty oath to Donald Trump. And when we ask them about the things they're going to do as the Secretary of Education or the Secretary of Defense, they all just say, I'll do whatever Donald Trump tells me to do. Well, that may work for cabinet officials, but the Fed is different. The Fed is independent. Part of how we get the strength of the Fed is that it doesn't move with the political winds.
Well, no surprise, she's defending the Federal Reserve. I think that one's pretty straightforward.
No one saw, but she was giving Jerome Powell a handy off camera while she was talking.
Yeah, independent
Jesus.
is kind of a joke, right?
But independent? Are you kidding? The creatures of Jekyll Island. Independent. No, they're in everything, man. They're in everything.
Here's maybe a surprise to some people, but I don't 100% disagree with her on some of these points.
Well, share that. Share
I think she's a little bit right, and it's good that someone is pushing back against Donald Trump to just artificially drop the rates completely.
Right,
but I would like to see lower rates.
If it wasn't Trump, if it was a Democrat, would she? Right, and that's really that's where it comes down to it. Right, and that's really what it comes. You're right. She's pushing against Trump, but she's pushing against Trump.
Yeah,
and using this as the excuse. And you're right. The excuse is correct. But this is the principle shit that we always getting stuck with. It's like, why are we the principled ones? How can we apply the same mirror or the same logic to both sides, and we're the ones who are the bad guy? Like I don't understand that.
Yeah, but to say the Fed is not politicized at all whatsoever is crazy, right?
She's right. It should be independent. It's just not.
It's not.
So bring it in, man. Who we got? Justin's in today.
This is a toughie. Justin said, sorry for the late join, but the problem I see with Bitcoin, and this varies with different crypto, is that there's no real utility to it. So it only has value because we say it does. Is that reliable? Yeah, that's the question with Bitcoin. And in particular is that because it has shifted from, well, we want to use it as a currency to we want to use it as a store of value, that is up in the air, I would say. So what is the real value there? Well, the value is, I guess, why they do the mining is because they use the value of that electricity to create something, right? And the value is, well, it was supposed to be a currency, a ledger, different nodes running this ledger to keep track of a currency that no one could alter, that people could just not print out of thin air like they do with the dollar. That was supposed to be the value to it, but yeah, it gets complicated. We probably could spend a whole lot of time, and we need an expert to fully explain all the details. But the initial value, I guess, comes from the power that you need to generate in order to run these equations to unlock the gosh, I'm really blanking on the terminology here. The blocks, to mine the blocks. That's why they call it mining. It's similar to gold, right? It takes energy to
so it's the energy
to go get the gold.
The energy to run the computations to solve the riddles that give you the coins or whatever that coin or whatever that riddle is, whatever. But so here it is, though, Justin. Okay, I'll put it back up. But basically, what it is, it's trust. It's trust. But that's every single unit of value that we have, from the paper dollar or the rag dollar that we have in our pockets to the silver coin to the gold, right? Like, and you ever seen the thing? I've seen it. I saw it on Facebook. I think it's like, here's like a $100 steel bar, but you make it into needles and it's $100,000, or you make it into this and it's it. You know what I mean? Like, you coat silver with use 1 ounce of silver to superconduct, or gold to superconduct stuff. I'm wondering the value of that goes how much higher. But there's a trust to that too, right? Is that this thing's worth something because we say it is. So unfortunately, everything there is just a foundational trust. I think the Bitcoin is the structure that creates the coin, is the trust in the structure that it halves every X amount of years. So it like limits and then controls the limit. It doesn't expand it, to your point. So it really, unfortunately, is just a trust issue, right? That we trust to have value.
Every society uses something as money going back in history. You can look at, they use different things, and there were flaws in every single one of them. You can find flaws with Bitcoin as well. But it aimed to tackle some of those big problems, like is it easily movable? So for one thing, like taking a big stack of gold across the world will take a lot of energy, a lot of time. It's not very feasible. And then you have to worry about, is it actually pure gold? Because people would cut it and put different things inside gold bricks, and you'd have to melt it down, and it would take a lot of energy, and the trust thing plays in there. So Bitcoin removes that detriment, where you don't have to trust, because it's verified by thousands of nodes around the world at all times. So it can't be just printed out of nothing.
Yes. All that. Do you mind reading that one as well?
Yeah, silver and gold do have inherent value, right? Like, you could use them for things. You can use gold in electronics. It does have use. And it's not something that you can create.
And it is physical.
You have to find it.
You are touching it. I mean, you're holding it.
So there are advantages, right? That's
100%.
It's a pro and con. So there's pros and cons to both. I would say keep both if you can.
I guess in a way, when we talk trust, I guess we'd have to compare right now to the dollar, because it's not backed really by anything.
Yeah, the dollar is horrible.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it's still the world reserve currency, so it keeps value because of that, because everyone has to use it.
And that's the question. I'm wondering, as crypto itself expands, because it's going outside, obviously, just Bitcoin, that takes away from the dollar's power, because every chip into the dollar has to take away from the dollar to replace it, right? So like every new currency that can enter the market is really a threat. And that's why the government is so inherent, like wanting to corner some of this stuff too, is because they want to have the reins on it too. It is a control thing. I mean, it could really decentralize power if it's not in the right hands, or you know what I mean? Like, and it grows. So
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, man. There's a lot of open threads, loose threads that could unravel that we don't know about. But I really like the concept. The idea of a digital gold is great. I really hope it works. I want to be able to use it. I want the dollar to go away. I want the US government to have less to no control over my money, because that has been, I would say, the single biggest problem, the cause of almost every other problem that our government creates.
yeah. Well, like, once again, we're looking at the devaluation of the dollar, and Trump's talking rebate. Oh, we could buy down the debt, or we could do rebate. And you're like, really? Didn't we give money away in 2020, 2021? How'd that work out? 2021. As long as your name was on the check or whatever in 2020. So anyway, you mind reading that one, Jason? Because we got the Irish goodbye upcoming. Thank you everyone for joining us. We have over 50 people on the X. We had Frank Holmes again tonight. What an honor. It's just, I love visionaries, because it's beautiful. Like, it's gonna amp me up when we get off this call and when we talk. Like, I'm gonna be so energized to, like, what can I build now? What can I try to build? Just, I love listening to people who talk so positively about things.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, but William said, let's talk about it. I've been really digging into AI job loss, the economic impact, how we can tokenize assets for income versus IBI, etc. So yeah, definitely we'll schedule something. I think he's gone now, but William, we'll get something on the books.
Yep. I've got the link for you. I'll share that one. I watched that. It is actually, it's Justin who shared it with me. So Justin, thank you for sharing. It's the one we were talking about, the AI stuff and tokenizing and stuff. Very interesting conversation. Yeah. So, all right, man. So anyway, what do you got going on? Anything else you got going on?
Not too much, man. Keep him busy.
Next week we are breaking down, who is that guy? Peterson. Oh, we got Jordan Peterson.
Oh, Jordan.
And we got Scott Adams talking about they're going to have an interview and they're going to talk about each other.
Very interesting conversation. I did watch it a few weeks ago. It's been a while, but worth diving into. Talk about affirmations, things of that nature.
Yeah, I think it's really good. And I think, look, we can, Jordan Peterson's one of those people. Is like, some of this stuff is like, where are we at? The gay for groomer lady. How does she have that so right? And then she's like talking about how the Gaza food thing. I don't even want to get it. All right, it's just way too much to talk about. Anyway, so next week we got Scott Adams, we got Jordan Peterson. It's going to be awesome because Jason's going to be clipping all of it, and we are going to be clipping like crazy, Jason. Right? I've got your commitment on some clips and stuff because you're like the genius Gen X. What are you? You're the Z. I
am a
millennial.
Millennial. That's
all right. You got it. All right. Well, yeah. So everyone, it's been so cool. Thanks.
I've got my iron and my 6 string.